Welcome to the Hank Haney podcast. The Hank Haney podcast is brought to you by Bet Online, which is the world's most trusted betting platform and the number one source for everything football, from the NFL to college. Bet Online has every stat, every line, every matchup, even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. And you can jump on over to the website and check it out, betonline.ag. When the game's over, head on over to the online casino. You can get in on a game of blackjack or poker and unwind on one of the over 150 slot machines. Head over to the website today and use the promo code BLEAV, and you get in on the action there. Okay, Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, today's podcast, I want to talk about the most important factor in golf. I say this all the time to people. I say distance is the most important factor in the game of golf. And it is for many, many reasons. And let me explain why. Distance determines your potential. How far you can hit the ball determines your potential in the game. If you hit the ball 200 yards, you can play a very nice game of golf. If you hit the ball 150 yards, you can play a nice game of golf. But if you hit the ball 150 yards, you are never going to be a single-digit handicap. If you hit the ball 250 yards, you can be a single-digit handicap golfer, but you are never going to play the PGA Tour. You hit it 285 yards, you might be able to play the PGA Tour, but you're never going to dominate the PGA Tour. Distance determines your potential in the game. And the other thing that distance does is, this is what people don't realize, distance gives you accuracy. The longer you hit the ball, the straighter you will hit the ball with every club except for the driver. And the reason being is if you have to hit a 6-iron from 150 yards and somebody else you're playing with can hit a pitching wedge from 150 yards, there is no way that the 6-iron player can be as accurate as the pitching wedge player. So distance gives you accuracy, except with the driver. But the great thing about having distance with a driver is you don't always have to use a driver. And that's why you see probably touring pros probably tee off no more than 10 times around with a driver. And that's a pretty high estimate. A lot of times they'll hit irons off the tee, they'll hit hybrids off the tee, they'll hit fairway woods off the tee. And the driver today for a lot of the touring pros is oftentimes a specialty club. But if you club down, you can get your accuracy. So distance gives you accuracy because when you hit it longer, you get to use a more lofted club. When you use a more lofted club, you have more backspin on your shots. And when you have more backspin on your shots, you will have less curvature sideways on your shots. And that means you are more accurate. So distance does give you accuracy. Now with a driver, you hit it longer. Yes, it can get farther offline. But like I said, then you don't always have to use a driver. So this is why I say distance is the most important factor in determining your potential in the game. And I'll have students that take lessons from me, and one of the first things I look at is I look at their club head speed, regardless of what club they're hitting. Obviously, if you have a shorter club, your club head speed is going to be less than if you have a longer club. Longer club, bigger arc, more club head speed. But I'm always comparing it to golfer. And the handicap that a golfer has is oftentimes solely dictated by the amount of speed that they have. Now, there's so many other factors. I get it. I understand it. But your club head speed determines what you potentially could be if you can get your fundamentals, your technique down, and that is very, very learnable. Getting your club head speed 10, 12, 15 miles an hour faster is not usually obtainable. I mean, rarely will you ever see that. Now, I do see people whose club head speeds improve 4, 5, 6, 7 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour. I see that in a course of lessons, especially with players that have a limited arc to their swing. If they take it back and they don't get their wrist cock, or they don't have enough turn, or they don't have enough width in their swing, they don't make a big enough arc, they don't create enough arc to be able to create enough speed. When those players get more arc, they can get a lot more speed. And a lot of times I can get players 3, 4 miles an hour of speed just by cheering them on and telling them to go faster and giving them permission to go faster. I can't tell you how many times I've given lessons or talked to people about golf, and they will tell me, Hank, my swing is too fast. I know my swing is too fast. And whenever they say that, I love that comment because my answer is always the same. You really think your swing is too fast? Really? Well, you must be hitting it too far if your swing is too fast. And the reality of it is, nobody hits it too far, and nobody's swing is too fast. Most people's swings are woefully slow. Woefully slow. And you are not going to get a faster swing by trying to swing slower. You get a faster swing by trying to swing faster. 4 miles an hour. 4 miles, you get 2.5 yards roughly for every mile an hour club head speed. 4 miles an hour at club head speed would give you 10 more yards on every single shot. Now, if you have 36 shots in a round, full shots, I'm talking 1 on a par 3, 2 on par 4s, and 3 on par 5s. That equals 36 full shots in a round of golf. If you could hit it 10 yards longer on every shot, 4 miles an hour is all it takes to do that. You have effectively shortened every golf course you play by 360 yards. And what that means, on average, most people hit each club about 10 yards difference, maybe only 8 yards difference. But we'll say, for this example, we'll say 10 yards difference. If you hit it 360 yards longer because you increase your club head speed 4 miles an hour, you have effectively cut off 2 clubs on every hole. So instead of hitting a 6-iron on the first hole, you're hitting an 8-iron. Instead of hitting a 7-iron on the second hole, you're hitting a 9-iron. Instead of a 3 hybrid on the third hole, you're hitting a 5 hybrid, and so on and so forth. And that is going to give you more accuracy and allow you to hit more greens in regulation. And if you hit more greens in regulation and get closer to the greens that you miss, you're going to shoot lower. And that's why distance is the most important factor in golf. Now, you hear people say about golfers, they say, this guy's got a lot of potential. I've heard that statement. I remember when I had Michael Phelps on my show, the Haney Project on the Golf Channel. And people would watch Michael hit and they'd say, wow, he's got a lot of potential. What do you think people are saying and meaning when they say a player has a lot of potential? They mean he can hit it. He can make it move. He's got club head speed. Somebody that hits it down there 150 yards off every tee, nobody ever looks at that person and says, wow, you got a lot of potential. You're really accurate. No. Potential comes from having distance. But when people say you've got a lot of potential, that's usually code for he can't find his ball. You got to be able to find your ball. And you have to have some technique to go with that club head speed. But club head speed is the thing that you want the most. Because if you have that, you're going to have distance. And if you have distance, you have potential. And you get to use more lofted clubs. And lofted clubs are going to go straight. So I saw this deal on the X, on the Twitter. It was from My Golf Spy. My Golf Spy is a great follow on Twitter. It's a great follow anywhere. You can go to their site is tremendous, and they test a lot of equipment. They run a lot of tests. They had a great little comparison on distances that players hit. And here's what they said. They went through all these different yardages because a lot of people will say, they a lot of people think they hit the ball farther than they actually do. That's one thing. But these are real yardages that My Golf Spy had. And they went through a list of like different players and different players' handicaps and how far they hit the golf ball. And this was very telling. A 25 handicap hits the ball on average 191 yards off the tee, to my point exactly. Okay, you're going to be hard to be a low handicap if you hit it 191 yards. A 20 handicap averaged 204 yards off the tee, so 13 yards longer. A 15 handicap averaged 212 yards off the tee, so 8 yards longer than the 20 handicap. A 10 handicap averaged 229 yards off the tee, a 17-yard difference to get to a 10 handicap. A 5 handicap averaged 236 yards off the tee. Now, that doesn't mean that that's your longest hit. I'll have people tell me, I hit a drive 270 yards. Okay, it was the fall. It hadn't rained fall in Chicago, hadn't rained in 3 weeks. Bent grass fairways that are firm, cut very low, ball hit a downslope, slightly downwind, carried it, 225, rolled it out to 275, and, they think they hit the ball 275 yards. A 5 handicap on this list, though, hit it 236 yards. A scratch player, 0 handicap, 260 yards. That's a 24-yard difference. 24-yard difference from a 5 handicap to a 0 handicap, a 25-yard difference in distance. And then we get to the LPGA Tour. LPGA Tour, 257-yard average. Now, there's players on the LPGA Tour can hit a lot longer than that, and they're dominating out there. They're dominating. But 257 yards, the average on the LPGA Tour. PGA Tour averaging 300 yards. That's the average, which is crazy because years ago, there was a couple players that hit it 300 yards. Now it's like the average is what they hit. But those are the breakdown. A 25 handicap, 191 yards. A 10 handicap, 229 yards. A PGA Tour player, 300 yards. A scratch golfer, 260 yards. Distance truly does determine your potential in the game. So how do you get more distance? Everybody wants to know that. The way you get more distance is with clubhead speed properly applied. So you got to try to increase the pace of your swing. You do that by trying to go faster. It's just like the example I use for people is I'll say, it's like if we were walking together somewhere and I looked at my watch and we were running a little late. And I said to you, I said, you know what? We're running a little late. We got to pick up the pace. You wouldn't look at me and say, Hank, how do we do that? You would just start walking faster. So that's what you have to do. The first thing you have to do is you have to try to swing faster. And people say, it's going to, I feel like it's going to throw. So what? So what if it throws you off? So what if it throws your balance off? My gosh, balance is so overrated anyways. Look at Scotty Scheffler. So what if your balance goes off? Get the clubhead speed up and figure out how to hit it consistently and solid after you get the clubhead speed. That's the same formula that Jack Grout used with Jack Nicklaus. It's the same formula that Tiger Woods' father Earl used with him. Get the clubhead speed, Then you can worry about the accuracy and the consistency. But get the club head speed first. Try to go faster. And one thing that I tell people that really helps them out is you have to go faster in the backswing if you want to go faster in the downswing. Because every golfer and every swing has a certain tempo to it. And when they measure the tempo of the tour players, they measure at a tempo that's a 3-to-1 ratio backswing to downswing. In other words, 3 beats in the backswing to 1 beat in the downswing. 1, 2, 3 going back, 1 coming down. Okay. This is every tour player. Now, they may not look like that, but they're all 3-to-1 ratio. Okay, 2.9 to 1, 3.1 to 1. I mean, they're right around 3-to-1. Maybe not exactly 3-to-1, but very, very close to that. So you can't just speed up your downswing, is what I'm saying. You can't go back slow and then have all hell break loose when you start down. You have to increase the speed of your backswing. And an example I'll use for you is if you've ever watched Bryson DeChambeau work on his driver. He's working on trying to hit it as far as he can, increasing his club head speed, always working on his club head speed. It's amazing how fast his backswing is. And it has to be, because if you just speed up the downswing, you're going to ruin the tempo of your swing. You have to speed up the backswing and the downswing. So faster back, faster down, faster back, faster down. That's what I'll tell people. And you have to train, because a lot of people can swing faster, but they can swing faster for 1 or 2 swings. And what I mean by training is, I mean taking a lot of swings, taking practice swings, and trying to increase your club head speed. Every day when you're out there practicing, try to increase your club head speed. And if you do that, you're going to have more potential in the game. You have to increase the length of your swing, increase the arc of your swing. A lot of people think that means more turn. Maybe, but usually it means more wrist cock. Most people that have very short swings are not hinging their wrists either in the backswing or in the through swing. They have too short of a swing because of the lack of wrist cock. It's not so much the turn. Most people turn enough. Most people turn plenty. And if you need to turn a little more, you can always flare your feet out a little bit at address, and it'll free your hips up to turn a little more, and your shoulders will turn a little more. But most of the time, I see golfers that make a big enough turn. What they don't do is the ones that are short, the short hitters, do not hinge their wrists enough in the backswing. Let the club swing all the way back over your shoulder, going back, all the way over your shoulder, going through. Faster back, faster through. Faster back, faster through. And then you got to get that club head speed properly applied. And that means you have to feel like when you're the driver, you're coming in where you actually feel like you're almost hitting up on the ball. You want to hit up 2 or 3 degrees with a driver would be ideal for most players that play the game. Most people hit down on the ball too much. They waste club head speed down into the ground instead of putting it in the back of the ball. You want to feel like you're hitting up on the ball as you come through, and you want to feel like you're squaring the club face. Most people who play golf slice. When you slice, you're hitting with the face open. You're adding loft to the club. When you add loft to the club, you create spin. When you create spin, the ball rises up and it doesn't penetrate as well, and it doesn't roll as far. And as a result, the spin rate gets high and you don't hit it as far. So you want to launch the ball up in the air by swinging up on the ball a little bit, and you want to square the club face, closing the face so that you get the spin scrubbed off the ball, and that's how you're going to get more distance. And of course, you want to hit the ball in the center of the face as well. And if you don't hit it in the center of the face, figure out where you tend to miss. Do you miss on the toe? Do you miss on the heel? And see if you can correct it. Put some tees down, make a little gate, hit the ball in between that gate, and you'll figure out how to find the center of the club face. If you can do those things, you can increase your speed, you can increase your distance, and your potential to have a lower handicap is going to go up tremendously. And you will be on your way to playing better golf. No more of this, I'm swinging too fast. No one There is no such thing as swinging too fast. It doesn't exist. I have amateur golfers tell me it all the time. Guys swinging a driver 85 miles an hour. Rory McIlroy, 125 miles an hour. Dustin Johnson, 125 miles an hour. Bryson DeChambeau, who knows how fast that guy swings? 130 something miles an hour. And yet people that are swinging 85 miles an hour and they tell me they're swinging too fast. Just remember, there is no such thing as too fast. Speed up your swing, get that ball out there, lower your handicap, and enjoy the game more. Hope everybody enjoyed the podcast. Hit the follow button on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can see the Hank Haney podcast and a lot of other great programming on nofilter.net. You can also see the Hank Haney podcast on the Hank Haney podcast channel on YouTube. I hope everybody has a great day. I hope your golf game improves, and I appreciate you watching and listening to the Hank Haney podcast.